الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيد المرسلين يا خاتم النبيين يا شفيع المذنبين يا أنيس الغريبين يا رحمة للعالمين صلى الله عليك وعلى آله وسلم. Today is the 6th of June, which that makes us the 25th of Dhul Qa'dah. So Dhul Hajj is coming very soon. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we're just getting started, inshallah. Today I'm going to cover, I guess what you could say are some of the revolutions or revolts that arose after Karbala. And we talked about one last week. There are several others that came up. And these are important. The ones I'm going to touch upon are the ones that I feel are more important to understand, because you have involved within these revolts or revolutions companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as well as Ahlul Bayt. And so, of course, the actions of both are very important for us to understand, and to understand how to follow those actions. So these are the points that I want to touch upon today, inshallah. I probably will end a little early because we do have khatam after the salat for our brother Wajid, who just passed away, and we buried him Friday. So then that gives time for people to, remake their wudu and get ready for the other program, inshallah. And in that program also I'll speak a little bit, so we'll probably broadcast the talk on that as well, inshallah. So if the brothers can mute the phone unless they have a question or something. So as we mentioned last week, after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Yazid is in this mode of trying to reestablish his authority, in the sense that now people are realizing who he is. He wants to cover up his reality, so he's literally trying to bribe people into saying good things about him. And this is, as we spoke about last week, why Abdullah ibn Hanzala radiallahu anhu was invited to Damascus along with his family in a delegation from Medina Munawwara. He, of course, was not someone who could be bought, and quite the opposite. He took the money that he was given, which was not a small sum. 100,000 dirham is a lot of money. Especially, if you start converting it to today's standards, you're literally talking about almost like $33 million. And 10,000 dirham to each of his sons, 10,000 dirham to other members of the delegation. And this was just one delegation. He invited delegations from Kufa, invited delegations from Egypt, invited delegations from, everywhere. And of course, it's not his money. It's not his money, so, it doesn't matter. Just like politicians have no problem spending tax money, because again, it's not their money. And they figure out ways to make that money come back into their own pockets. Same thing with the king, same thing with everybody else. It's interesting when, in the Quran, when Musa alayhi salam comes to Fir'aun and is inviting him or giving him da'wah, and one of the things that Fir'aun says is that, I'm the one who, raised you, and Musa alayhi salam's response to him was that, yeah, but it wasn't your money. That was money you had taken from Bani Israel. So that was his money. So, same thing with everybody else, that we see today. And this is one of the things that distinguishes the Khilafah from every other form of rule, or the real Khilafah. And this is one of the sad things that happened through history is you get this redefinition of what Khilafah means. So, you know, because all the kings that came up from Banu Umayyah, Banu Abbas, you know, Uthman, the Ottomans, all of these kings, all of them referred to themselves as Khalifa. And the people talked about them as Khalifa. And they're not Khalifa, they're kings. Rasulullah said they were kings. You know, Khilafah is the service to the people, where the Khalifa truly is the servant of the people. He treats the wealth of Bayt al-Mal as a trust, not something that he just spends freely. And so this is one important point to note here. But again, coming back to the actual topic, so of course, you know, but what, as we spoke about last week, what Abdullah ibn Hanzala radiallahu does with that money is that he takes that money and he uses it to start preparing an army to go and fight against Yazid. Because the leader of the Muslims should be a Muslim. And they understood this. You know, and the leader of the Muslims should be one who is at least trying to fulfill the rights of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, there are certain criteria. You know, ulil amri minkum, those who are appointed over you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about obeying those, but He says what? He says first obedience of Allah, obedience of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then ulil amri minkum. So long as they are in line with the obedience of Allah and His Messenger, then we obey them. But when they are blatantly out of line, you know, it's one thing, okay, you know, you have a dispute with somebody, and even a dispute, worldly dispute. But when the dispute becomes an issue of aqeedah, an issue of belief, of not just any belief, but of core values of the belief, that becomes a very different problem. And this is one of the main things that the actions of Imam Hussein al-Islam did to the Ummah, is that they woke them up from this coma, as we keep saying, revived them to be able to see now more clearly. You know, because over time you become, you know, in a sense, you know, things are happening and you don't even realize them. So you become, you know, complicit to things that are going on, and you know, you just kind of brush them off. Like, oh, you know, you're desensitized to the situation, so everything gets brushed off as, oh, you know, this is just how things are. You know, the question isn't how things are. The question is how things should be. And if the way things are not in line with the way things should be, then you need to question seriously what's going on. But over time, and especially when things happen very gradually, you know, you don't realize the difference. And we notice this even with our own bodies. You know, if somebody goes from, you know, a simple example of this, you know, like arteries. If somebody goes suddenly from an artery that's completely open to an artery that's 90% blocked, that person's going to know immediately that something's changed. But if you go from an artery that's 100% open, and over years you get to 90%, well, you may not notice it. And many other things that we know about the body. The Ummah is one body. So the same thing here. And this is what happened. You know, during the administration of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, you know, you had administrators who were playing the system. You know, we see this during the Khilafah of Uthman. You had administrators playing the system, but you know, you had people who, you know, but at that time what was going on was there was this sudden shift, so people realized, oh, something's wrong. And that's why you have people that rose up against that situation. And then you have those people who of course, are defending Uthman radiallahu anhu, correctly so, because again, the rebellion that came against him was an illegitimate rebellion. Because he was the rightful Khalifa acting as a Khalifa. Even though you had some administrators who were creating issues, but he still was treating or dealing with those things appropriately. You have, during the 19 years of the Khilafah of Muawiyah, then you have this gradual shift, where these administrators are doing things that initially they were hiding, and now they're slowly opening things up, and now it's like, but by the time everything became apparent, it was kind of like the cat's out of the bag, it's too late. And this is where Yazid becomes the king. And so all of these people now, they're rising up because, cat's out of the bag, things are out in the open now. Yazid's reality has come forward, and everybody knows, okay, this is who he is, and this is what we need to do. We can't simply just say, oh, he's the leader, and we just kind of brush it off. Because again, the leader has responsibilities, and if the leader isn't fulfilling those responsibilities, there are times when that leader must be removed. And it's not really a fine line, but there is a distinction between what actions qualify for the dismissal and removal of a leader, and those actions that are truly kufr, disbelief. These are actions that, remove you from that position or disqualify you from that position. And so when we see, and of course, again, you have those defenders of Yazid who will defend him no matter what, because throughout history you've had the oppressors, and then you've had the supporters of the oppressors, because they aspire to becoming or attaining that position. So when Abdullah ibn Hanzala, of course, is gathering his army, as we mentioned last week, Yazid sends his army, 100,000 men, under the command of Muslim bin Uqba, and they literally ransack Medina. And this is all under the orders of Yazid. Yazid tells them, look, this is, you have free reign to do whatever you want. And his wording is that I have made the haram of Medina halal for you for 3 days. Do what you want. You have 3 days to do what you want. Then after that, there'll be too much of an issue. And as I said, they literally use the masjid of Rasulullah ﷺ as a stable for their horses. And these aren't things, again, that are in obscure books. These are things that are well documented. Every book of history talks about these, traditional book of history. Even, in the seerah written by Ibn Kathir, and why I bring up Ibn Kathir is that Ibn Kathir is actually from that lineage of Banu Umayyah. He is from Sham, and so and if you read his writings, every moment he would defend, these kingdoms. However, even here, he has to, call it out. There's no wiggle room in this, that, this is what he ordered. This is what he ordered to be done, and this is what they did. And they, not only, that's just the tip of the iceberg. They killed 10,000 people of Medina Munawwara. Several hundred companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After this day, or these 3 days, Ayyamul Hurra, no companions of Badr were left. You have, what's written in the book is after this incident, months after this incident, you have 1,000 children being born, because of the actions of the soldiers and I'm placing the wording here very mildly because, I know that younger people also listen to this. There are some children that listen to this. So you have 1,000 children that were born because of the actions of the soldiers that they perpetrated on the women of Medina Munawwara. And I was listening to one guy from Pakistan who is one of these deviant supporters of Yazid, and his saying of this, this is only in the books of the history, and so the person who wrote this was counting 999, 1,000. It's stupid. 1,000 here doesn't mean literally 1,000. But if you look in speech, and especially in Arabic speech, 1,000 means could mean several hundred. This means a lot. Even if there was one, it's too many. But you're talking several hundred. And there are other, atrocities that were committed in these 3 days. And as I said, Muslim bin Uqba, who was the general of this army, died at the end of these 3 days. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again did not even give him the opportunity to repent. And there are various ahadith which are in Bukhari and Muslim, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that anyone who even scares the people of Medina Munawwara, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make Jannah haram for him. Allah's curse will be on him. This is simply scaring them, much less killing them. And then still people are going to, no, he was the leader of the Muslims. You can't say that he was not Muslim. How can you not say he was not Muslim? Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, because what they quote is, I'll come to Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah statement in a second. But a lot of them say, see, when Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah was asked about Yazid, he remained silent. Why did he remain silent? They don't tell you that. They imply that, he remained silent, that means, he didn't want to say anything bad against Yazid. No. There are 2 times when Imam Abu Hanifa was asked and he remained silent. And so you have to see the other time to understand this time. He was asked if someone who commits indecency with his mother, can he become clean by making ghusl? And Imam Abu Hanifa remained silent. Because these are questions, if you have to ask that question, you don't deserve an answer. If you're at a point where you have to ask that question, you don't deserve an answer. And I'm going to come back to this in a minute, and because we'll see that the actions of Imam Abu Hanifa speak volumes on this, on Yazid, and what he thought of Banu Umayyah in general. But Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullahi alayhi is the first person to do lanat al-shakhsi, which means, a lot of people would say, curse upon Allah's curse be upon those who killed Imam Hussein al-Islam. So the way the other guys get out of this is they say, no, Yazid didn't give the direct order, which of course is not true, but that's what they say. Or they'll say, curse be upon those, who were happy at the killing of Imam Hussein al-Islam. And again, when you bring out those issues about Yazid and his initial statements, no, then they bring the other statements, which were statements after he realized that the tide is, that people's opinions about him are changing. Then he comes up with these other statements. But Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal cursed him by name. It says, Allah's curse be upon Yazid bin Mawiyah. And in Sharia, you cannot do lanat al-shakhsi on a Muslim. And Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal knows this. He's faqih.
What you mean by that? What you mean by in Sharia you cannot?
I cannot say Allah's curse be upon so and so by name if that person is a Muslim. This is haram. Alright? if I know that that person is Muslim, I cannot curse him by name or say that Allah's curse be upon him by name. I can say Allah's curse be upon those who do such and such, and that person might be involved in such and such an action. Okay, I can make a general statement like that. But in Sharia, to curse someone by name, say that Allah's curse be upon so and so specifically, is haram unless that person is kafir. So if that person is a Muslim and I do that, then I am a sinner. So Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, he says Allah's curse be upon Yazid bin Muawiyah, taking by name. And he, of course, is the great faqih, so he understands fiqh. He understands the implications of what he's saying, which that statement in itself tells us that he didn't consider Yazid to be Muslim. Okay. So these are important points to remember and to understand as well. Especially because there's no shortage of these people that are always trying to defend Yazid, if you don't run into them in person, you're going to run into them on the internet, and the various deluded arguments that they bring to try to defend him. And so, because they'll quote Ibn Kathir, in his defense, where Ibn Kathir said this, but then they won't quote the other things that Ibn Kathir mentioned. Like he mentions the statement of Abdullah ibn Hanzala when he returned from Damascus to Medina Munawwara, and the people asked him, what did you see? And he says to them, I saw a man who has no religion. Because while Abdullah ibn Hanzala is there, he offers him alcohol. And Abdullah ibn Hanzala says that this is haram. And Yazid's statement to that is, well, just drink it on the Sharia of Isa alayhi salam. Because he grew up amongst the Christians. His mother's tribe was Christian, and that's who he grew up amongst. So he said, if you're not going to drink it according to the Sharia of Rasulullah, so drink it according to the Sharia of Isa alayhi salam. That's the So he says, not a morning goes by that he's not hungover. And again, these are statements that are mentioned in Ibn Kathir mentions. Not a morning goes by that he's not hungover. He spends time with young boys, which, again, is a mild way of saying certain things without getting too specific. Ishara. Womanizer, all of these things, so he mentions them. And this is, again, when he saw the reality. This is why he comes back and says, we cannot, how can the Muslim Ummah have a leader like this? And so this is when Yazid proved the accuracy of the statement of Abdullah ibn Hanzala. Yazid's actions prove the foresightedness of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That again, someone whose heart is devoid of guidance has no limits. And so it's not going to be anything for him to send an army against the city of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who wanted to come and attack Medina Munawwara other than the disbelievers? The only people that were going to attack Medina Munawwara were the disbelievers. So Yazid is proving to the world where he belongs, what side he is on. And so, again, and as I mentioned last week when we spoke about this, and so from there, of course, when this happens, this is when Abdullah ibn Zubair radiallahu anhu declares himself as Khalifa. All the people of Hijaz acknowledge him, and then basically this is when Yazid has that same army come and attack Makkah. So, and during that attack is when Yazid dies from the effects of You know, basically stomach pain, but in reality, you know, it was cirrhosis from, you know, all his drinking. You know, they talk about liver pain, but, well, why was his liver hurting? You know, there's cirrhosis. And he was